everyone. On this episode, we will be covering the topic of imposter syndrome. I'm Maida.
I'm Selena.
And I'm Virginia.
I am going to briefly introduce what imposter syndrome is based on research. According to the article, The Imposter Phenomenon in Higher Education, Incidence and Impact by Anna Parkman, imposter phenomenon was a term which was used to describe women who were successful, however, had a hard time internalizing that success. Though these women have achieved a lot, they did not credit their success to their own abilities. Moreover, according to Parkman, imposterism refers to the ability to incorrectly self-assess when it comes to performance. Also, low self-confidence and self-efficacy are common attitudes which imposters tend to have. Additionally, as stated by Parkman, imposters internalize failures, place an overfocus on making mistakes, and as a result, experience a lot of anxiety and stress, and ultimately strive for perfectionism. Virginia and Selena, I wanted to ask you both, when you first experienced imposter syndrome, any one of you can start to answer the question.
I'll go first. So for me, I think that I definitely experienced imposter syndrome well before getting into like higher ed and college. Specifically in high school, I was on cheer and dance and like I did a lot of sports, and I was a commuter student. So I took the train from here in South Central to my grandparents' house down in the Whittier area. And I just remember feeling like I didn't belong there. Like the way that I talked, the things that I experienced didn't really like negate to the other experiences that my friends in school had. And so kind of starting with that, it carried with me through nursing school, and then like eventually when I got into college much later, because I didn't start until I was like already in my mid-20s. And it was just a lot of like not not being able to figure out how I fit into the space because of the background that I came from. So it was like a really long run of imposter syndrome, even in jobs and stuff like that for me.
Thank you, Selena, for sharing. What about you, Virginia? When did you first experience imposter syndrome?
So I think personally, I first started experiencing imposter syndrome right after my high school graduation, going into UCLA. I thought I was ready. When I was in high school, I was top of my class, top 10, 4.3 GPA, had taken AP courses, sports, after school programs, you name it, I was in it. And I felt that I was, like I was the best that I could be. And so when I got accepted to UCLA, I thought I was ready. And it was, as to put it bluntly, it was a slap to the face. I totally felt out of place. I was surrounded by people that did not look like me, did not speak the way that I spoke. I felt that I couldn't reach out to professors. I couldn't reach out for help because you're at a university, you should know what you're doing in that space. And so for me, that was the first time I felt that I don't belong here. I shouldn't even have came in here in the first place. And that really affected my motivation that first semester, first quarter, to really do the best that I could in my classes. I started failing my midterms, my essays were not the best, and that kind of validated in a way that it was true that I was in a space that I did not belong in. And so it was difficult to move around in a space where I felt that I was not receiving the help that I needed. And you know, I just didn't feel like I belonged. I really just wanted to leave the space. I just didn't want to be there anymore.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Virginia. So now we're going to look into how different systems are affected by imposter syndrome, such as school, family, and professional positions. So I'm going to be sharing how some of those systems were affected for me because of my imposter syndrome. For me personally, I am a first generation college student and I entered college as an undeclared major. And for me, it was a very overwhelming experience having to navigate through my first year of college, trying to choose a major as a first generation college student. However, I was able to get through all of that, and eventually I was able to be a successful college student, and I was also working as well and very involved in school. But no matter how much I accomplished, or no matter how successful I was, I always uh, would overthink and self-doubt my abilities when I would embark on new academic or professional opportunities, even to this day. So as a result, the way my systems are affected is because of my imposter syndrome, and because I tend to overly focus and overthink on minor mistakes I make in, even current positions that I hold. And because of it, I experience a lot of stress and anxiety and try to seek perfectionism in my performances at work. And I believe that this is due to being a first generation college student. However, after reading some article by Mendez and doing some research, I also realized that imposter syndrome can be affected by the environments that we work in. And so I try not to hold myself solely responsible for minor mistakes that I make. Um, and I do realize that it's not just being a first generation college student for having experiencing imposter syndrome.
So thank you, Maida, for sharing, how has imposter syndrome affected you? And not just you, but like within your systems. Um, and I think after hearing our stories and for some of our experiences, are there any advice or recommendations or coping mechanisms that you would like to share? And it doesn't just have to be in the workplace or at school or undergrad, or even now within like the graduate program for students that are coming in. Like, what are some advice you would be willing to share in regards to the imposter syndrome?
Yes. I would like to share that it's important to give yourself grace, and to know that you are here because you are meant to be here. You have worked hard to be here, and that is not due to luck. That success is due to your abilities, and to you being completely capable. I want to share that it's important to, not overthink the fact that you are capable, even if you make minor mistakes. I think you can use those mistakes to continue to learn and grow. I think it's important to seek mentorship. And I also think it's really important to have positive self-talk and to remind yourself that you know you're doing a great job, and especially to credit yourself, especially when it comes to you being a first generation college student and etc. What about you, Virginia and Selena, what is some advice that you can give to future students that are also trying to combat imposter syndrome?
Yeah, for me, I think it's a lot of reminding myself that the things that make me feel different are kind of why I'm here, especially in higher ed as a whole, like as a professional and as a student. I think sometimes like when there's those of us that do super niche like research or things that are like not extremely studied or really new, um when there's a lot of like very general research being presented in our classrooms and things like that, you can kind of feel like maybe I'm looking at the wrong thing, or maybe I'm, not like maybe what I'm doing is not right. And so kind of reminding myself like I'm here because of the fact that I'm different and I'm not doing certain things the same, and that's okay. That doesn't mean that I don't belong here. That just means that like I belong here for a different reason that my peers are here for, and it doesn't have to always match. And so reminding myself like the lived experience that I bring to the table, the professional and academic experience that I bring is super unique. And even though there's only one me here and that can feel like isolating at times, I am the only me in this specific setting, and that's a super special thing. And so kind of trying to remind myself like being different's okay in this realm, and just learning to navigate and making sure that when I have those feelings, like I'm sharing it with my support system, I'm sharing it with my mentors, or I'm sharing it, with the people that I'm working with on certain projects, and making sure that I keep those people in the loop, because a lot of times I need that external like reinforcement. And so reminding myself that it's okay like to ask for that at times too.
Thank you for sharing, Selena.
Definitely. So I could definitely resonate with what you, Maida, and Selena have said. Um, Maida, like you stated, as a first generation student, it's gonna come up. Unfortunately, it's a feeling that sometimes you're gonna have to face, whether you're entering undergrad, a grad program, um, the workplace environment, and it's just having that mentality of knowing that you deserve to be in that space. Um, for me personally, it took time for me to allow myself to accept those feelings that of self-doubt, of being unmotivated, and just looking back at where I started and how far I came. Um, my my history, where I came from, it's just not the best. Didn't have the best education, didn't go to the best schools, didn't have the best professors, the instructors, academic support. And knowing that a lot of the time I pushed myself because I knew I could be where I'm at right now. And also accepting my experiences. You learn a lot from where you came from. And so just knowing that those experiences matter. They they teach you more than one might think. And so just being accepting of those experiences and validating those feelings, and um, as Selena mentioned, reaching out to your support system when needed. There is a support system for a reason, and just feeling comfortable and reaching out to them. I think that's one of the best advice I can give. Just validating your feelings and accepting them, but learning from them and growing, but also reaching out to the support system around you.
Thank you so much for sharing, Virginia. I completely agree with the advice that you and Selena gave. And with that, that concludes our episode on imposter syndrome. We hope that that was insightful, and that you all can relate, and that it resonated with anyone that is going through imposter syndrome.
So yeah, this was really fun. I really appreciate it. Thank you for joining us, guys.